stretching across the continents to provide you positive, relevant, and balanced information with fresh insight from those in the know, right in the land, focusing a biblical lens on Israel and the Middle East. You're watching Focal Point.
Hello and welcome to Focal Point, where our point of focus is always on Israel and the Middle East. I'm Stacy Howard, and may I say we have a very informative yet sobering show for you today.
That's right, Stacy, we really do. Hello everyone, I'm Kevin Howard, and in the next 30 minutes we're going to do our very best to bring you a small look at some very relevant information about the Holocaust of World War II.
A little later in the program, our Sam Hales brings us an interview from the 20-something generation in the UK to gain current perspective on how the Holocaust affected his generation. Then we'll visit the home of a Holocaust survivor who shares her personal experiences of time spent in the horrific Nazi concentration camps.
And you won't want to miss our discussion with one of the directors of Yad Vashem, the World Center for Holocaust Research located right in Jerusalem.
We felt when sharing a story such as this, it's usually best to start at the beginning, which is where our first interview takes us, back to Germany, at the site of the first Nazi concentration camp. Focal Point's Dan Tracy recently visited the camp and brings us a very interesting report.
That's right, Stacy. I'm here at the concentration camp in Dachau, Germany. I'll be talking with Harald Eckert and asking him how far he feels we are today from the Holocaust back then. What better place to be able to talk about this very, very serious issue?
See, this is where it all began. The whole idea of concentration camp began here in Dachau. That's how it looked like in 1933, when mainly political prisoners were kept here, and starting in 1938, mostly Jewish people came in here. Most of the personnel for concentration camps, they were trained here. They developed the prototype here, and then they multiplied it throughout all of Europe until 1945, killing 6 million Jews altogether. And this, of course, is a big challenge, a big burden for me. As a citizen of Munich, as a Christian, big challenge to do whatever it needs now, today, to make sure that it never happens again, neither here nor anywhere else in the world.
Harald, thank you very much for taking the time for this interview today.
Yes, you're welcome.
We want to talk about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
This program is all about memorial, thinking about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And the first question I'd like to ask you is that as a person living in Europe, having to do with Europe and Germany, where have we come from that time to today?
Well, I would certainly say that we have come a far way. Society and also government today is different from 50, 60 years ago. And in society you have education in school, you have public debates, you have commemoration days, you have media shows about Nazi time and Holocaust, and I think there is certainly in public awareness a very high sensitivity towards the Nazi time, towards Holocaust, much more than 50, 60 years ago.
Do you think that it could happen again today?
Well, to be quite frank, in a certain way it is happening today, but coming from a different angle, from the radical Islam.
So the next question would be, have we learned anything from history? If you say that we're getting close again, that the Islam is trying to finish that which Hitler began, what about the rest of European society?
Well, in my view, the big real test is still ahead of Europe and also ahead of Germany, and to add, also ahead of the Church. The big test will be when radical Islam allies with radical right-wing views and radical left-wing views, and when this alliance tries to influence Europe and our society to the point where we give up on Israel. And this is happening more and more and more. And so the decision is before Germany, is before Europe. Is our economy, is our so-called inner peace as society, is this more important, or is our alliance to Israel and our steadfastness concerning truth and righteousness and the values of our civilization, is that more important? And the decision to me is both in Europe and in Germany still open.
Now, what about the church? What role does the church have to play in this whole thing?
I think we as Christians have to be aware that in the past mostly we played a bad role. Church history is full of anti-Semitism. The church in Europe and in Germany in the 30s and the 40s last century did not cope to the challenge that has been presented before us. So the big question to me is, have we learned something as Christians? Have we learned something as a church? Are we better biblically rooted in our understanding on God's faithfulness and purposes for Israel?
Where can the normal Christian find absolute biblical proof that God is not done with his chosen people?
Well, indeed, Romans 11 is the New Testament launching pad, and that's where it is explained most thoroughly. But in Romans 11, Paul gives different reasons why this is the case. Coming up to 11:25 and the following verses, where it says, even though the Jewish people became enemies of God, rejecting the Messiah and rejecting the gospel, they are still beloved of God for the Father's sake. And for the Father's sake brings us back to the covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's the theological foundation for Romans 11 and for God's ongoing faithfulness with Israel, the most important one. And there are many others who comply with that.
When we come back after a short break, FocalPoint's Sam Hales brings us a unique perspective on the Holocaust from today's 20-something generation. And later, we'll introduce you to a very special woman that shares her miraculous story of survival from within the Nazi concentration camps.
Right now, though, we'd like you to see firsthand some of the exciting things that are happening in Israel today. The Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel, Jerusalem, continues to be the Lord's hands and feet, helping those most in need right in the land.
My name is Ray Sanders. I'm the Executive Director and Co-Founder of Christian Friends of Israel, Jerusalem. We welcome you to our program today and trust that things that are shared with you will be an encouragement to you as you seek to bless and to serve the Jewish people. Thank you for joining us.
You know, Jerusalem has a real spiritual significance behind it. It's the city of the great king. So much has happened here through history, and so much will happen here in the future. We ask that you would become watchmen on the walls for Israel. And we have a Wall of Prayer program that's online. We have a number of online publications, and all you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And we have a new distribution center in Jerusalem that's been restored and remodeled. We opened it in the 1990s, and over 250,000 Russian Jews have been helped through clothing, through appliances, bedding, bath, and financial help. CFI has a bridal salon where we help Jewish brides to be blessed upon their wedding day, a very special gift from the nations. Streams of Blessing is for the very poorest of the poor and needy throughout Israel. Walk-ins off of the street, former war veterans who fought in the Red Army. Hope for the Future helps the Ethiopian Jewry who's come on some miraculous airlifts. They have a lot of needs that they have. Forsake Them Not reaches out to Jewish people who have suffered during the Holocaust that are still alive in their 80s and 90s, and they need to know that we care, that we're on the ground helping them with all the needs that they have. And Under His Wings and Communities Under Attack is the program that we help those who are suffering under terror attacks in the south of Israel and in various other cities throughout the land. First Fruits is our ministry to believers in the land, be they Jewish or Arab or Gentile. We help all alike, encourage them in their walk of faith. So if you want to help undo damage that was done in the name of the church for 2,000 years, we ask you to join us. Come alongside of us, partner with us, and let us change history and the world, that all may see that we're making a difference in Israel amongst the church and amongst all those who want to be a blessing. We're here for you to be your hands and feet in Israel. Partner with us today and help us change history. Shalom from Jerusalem.
To partner with the Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel through prayer, volunteering, or financial gifts, please visit cfijerusalem.org.
Welcome back. Although the Holocaust happened decades ago, its effects are still felt even today. Recently, FocalPoint's Sam Hales had an enlightening discussion regarding the Holocaust's relevance in the lives of those in his generation.
That's right. I'm here to speak to Richard Briggs about his understanding of the Holocaust. As you're about to see and hear, Richard believes it's vital that what happened in the 1930s and 40s is remembered by people of all backgrounds, religions and ages.
I remember studying a little bit about World War II, but it was more to do with the British Army and their strategy and landings and things like that, as opposed to the in-depth look at the Holocaust itself. One of the facts that you learn or pick up here and there from different media organisations is that there were 55 million deaths as a result of World War II, and 6 million of which were the Jewish people.
And if you had the ability to sit down with a Holocaust survivor, what would you like to ask them?
I'd like to ask them whether they saw it coming, whether they could detect what was going on, whether there were the anti-Semitic undercurrents or whatever they might have experienced, whether they had a feeling that 5 years down the line or whatever they would have experienced death to their people on such a grand scale. Because we see a rise in anti-Semitism with across the board in many areas and arenas, lots of media organisations at present, even national newspapers clearly have an anti-Semitic stance, and I think education would help to reduce or even prevent that. I think it is possible that we could see another Holocaust if things aren't done now to prevent it. I mean, we have world leaders like Mohammed Morsi in Egypt and Ahmadinejad in Iran who are constantly inciting Israel. There's reports, there's a YouTube video of Mohammed Morsi saying that all Jews are descendants of pigs and monkeys, and this was before he was in power, and now he's in power, and that's one of Israel's neighbours, of course. And then Ahmadinejad, who constantly is speaking about wiping Israel off the map, and it's even in the Hamas Charter to destroy Israel. And they're Israel's closest of neighbours. I think education is key to it. I think if schools across the board took trips to Auschwitz or other such death camps, whilst very sobering and very moving experience, I think it would do a lot to prevent these sorts of things happening again, especially children from a young age witnessing these things. I've been to Auschwitz myself, and it's not a pleasant experience, but I view it as quite an important one for me to ensure that I have an active role in whatever it may be in preventing such things happening again.
After hearing what Richard has said, I think the phrase, "those who forget history are destined to repeat it," comes to mind. There's a growing concern about anti-Semitism here in Europe, but as a perceived threat increases, so does a determination to stop it. And Richard is one of many in the 20s and 30s age group who is passionate about standing up for Jewish rights. Back to you.
Thanks, Sam. Having now heard the views of Sam's generation, we'd like to turn our focus on an amazing lady that actually lived through the tragic events of the Holocaust. Our Jerusalem team recently visited the home of Blue Matab, who shares with us her story of heartache and survival from within the camps of both Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen.
Unfortunately, they took us to Auschwitz, and we were there. I was there with my sister 4 months. In Auschwitz, people laid like dogs on the floor, and slowly, surely, some people passed away while I was there. And then, what happened? One day I had terrible pain in my teeth, and they took me. We thought, who knows where they're going to finish me. But they took me to a dentist in a different section, and they pulled out the teeth without the injection. I thought I'd die.
Wow.
But they did it, and they brought me back to the camp. But once I had pain on the side, my sister said, "Don't complain, you know where you're gonna go." So one day, when we were already replaced from the camp to another place before they took us to Germany, she got sick. She had temperature. And every day, 5 o'clock, they took us out, no matter what weather was. Took out us to the Germans to count us if we are not missing. So my sister, when she came out for, it's called Sailapel, to count us, she put a blanket on herself while the SS counted us. And she saw it. She beat her up so for that. Then they took us to work in Germany in manufacturing some bulbs. And I was working, and my sister near me. And one day they came to count our pieces, the Germans. And all of a sudden, a piece fell in my pocket, and they saw it's missing one piece. In the war, that means sabotage. They wanted to shoot me. So we had a Gentile foreman, and my sister persuaded him they shouldn't do it, and they left me live. We arrived finally to Bergen-Belsen. In Bergen-Belsen, when we came in, I had a shock of my life. There was thousands of bodies, like bones, just the eyes stood up. You saw it laying on the floor, or everyone. As soon as one passed away, they took off the clothes to give it to somebody because they were cold. And I said, no, I'll be soon there too.
Stacy, what an incredible story of survival. But we're not finished. Please stay with us, because after a short break, you won't want to miss another special interview from the Director of International Seminars on the Holocaust at Yad Vashem. He brings us a positive story of hope and renewal that is sure to inspire many.
Before that, however, we would like for you to see more of the tangible ministry efforts of Christian Friends of Israel Jerusalem. For more than 25 years, CFI continues to touch the lives of thousands of Israelis, one heart at a time.
Shalom, my name is Ray Sanders. I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of Christian Friends of Israel Jerusalem. We welcome you to our program today and trust you'll be blessed by all that we share of what's happening in Israel in these last days. Thank you for being with us.
Ray and I live in the greatest city on earth, Jerusalem. Here was where the beginning of Christian Friends of Israel started, and we now have representatives in nations around the world. And we have a new distribution center in Jerusalem that's been restored and remodeled. We opened it in the 1990s, and over 250,000 Russian Jews have been helped through clothing, through appliances, bedding, bath, and financial help. Forsake Them Not reaches out to Jewish people who have suffered during the Holocaust, that are still alive in their 80s and 90s, and they need to know that we care, that we're on the ground helping them with all the needs that they have. Hope for the Future helps the Ethiopian Jewry, who's come on some miraculous airlifts. They have a lot of needs that they have. CFI has a bridal salon where we help Jewish brides to be blessed upon their wedding day, a very special gift from the nations. Streams of Blessing is for the very poorest of the poor and needy throughout Israel. Walk-ins off of the street, former war veterans who fought in the Red Army. And Under His Wings and Communities Under Attack is the program that we help those who are suffering under terror attacks in the south of Israel and in various other cities throughout the land. First Fruits is our ministry to believers in the land. be they Jewish or Arab or Gentile. We help all alike, encourage them in their walk of faith. We ask that you would become watchmen on the walls for Israel. And we have a Wall of Prayer program that's online. We have a number of online publications, and all you have to do is go to our website and sign up. So if you want to help undo damage that was done in the name of the church for 2,000 years, we ask you to join us. Come alongside of us, partner with us, and let us change history and the world, that all may see that we're making a difference in Israel amongst the church and amongst all those who want to be a blessing. We're here for you to be your hands and feet in Israel. Partner with us today and help us change history. Shalom from Jerusalem.
To partner with the Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel through prayer, volunteering, or financial gifts, please visit cfijerusalem.org.
In wrapping up this edition of Focal Point, we felt it fitting to stop by Yad Vashem, Jerusalem's world-renowned Center for Holocaust Research. We spoke with Dr. Ephraim Kay, the Director of International Seminars for Educators at the International School of Holocaust Studies. He shares with us some very valuable insight into the post-Holocaust reflection and renewal.
There are three distinct players in the history of the Holocaust. There are the victims, the Jews, there are the perpetrators, not just Nazis and Germans and their collaborators, and the bystanders. With the Jews, we emphasize who the Jews were before they became victims, before they were persecuted. The second part is how the Jews responded to the persecution. In the ghettos, camps, what did they do to try and preserve the lives of their families and their loved ones? The last aspect with the victims deals with the aftermath. What happened when the war was over? Where'd you go? With the perpetrators, there were people that did monstrous acts in a modern Western society that enshrined, we thought, Judeo-Christian values, and in the end result, the Nazis enshrined values which were totally antithetical to any of the Judaic and Christian values of love thy neighbor as thyself, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. They did exactly the opposite. The bystanders, allies, the churches, people who sometimes looked on, abided, became collaborators. But among the bystanders, we also emphasize the few, but the very important, righteous among the nations, non-Jews, that decided to take a stand and to try and save Jews during the Holocaust. We've planted over 2,000 trees in honor and in memory of these righteous among the nations. Today we've recognized over 25,000. Yad Vashem in Hebrew means a hand and a name. It actually comes from a verse from the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 56, and it says in Hebrew there, Natati lahem bebeiti ubechomotai yad vashem asher lo yikaret. Translation, I have given unto you within my walls an everlasting memorial. Yad Vashem was created by an act of the Israeli Parliament in 1953. The campus includes an archive with over 153 million pages of documentation, over 80,000 survivor testimonies, and more than 420,000 digital photographs. I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story of a Jewish family, Hannah and Yehuda Hoyenstein. They had 7 children. They lived in Berlin. And in 1943, the Germans decided to make Berlin Judenrein, free of Jews. They were deported to Theresienstadt. In September of 1943, Yehuda and the 7 children were sent to Auschwitz. Hannah stayed in Theresienstadt, not knowing she was pregnant with number 8. In April 1944, she was transferred to Buchenwald. In April 1944, she gave birth to a little Jewish baby. She desperately wanted him to survive. She wrapped him in rags, and what would happen that the piles of bodies, people that had died, would be outside the camp, they'd be taken to be burned or buried. Her idea was to wrap her little baby in rags, have one of the guards put the baby on that pile of bodies, and hopefully someone would walk by, hear a baby crying, pick him up and save him. The only thing she did for identification was to rip a piece of her clothing and to inscribe on that piece of her clothing her number. What happened is a priest from a neighboring monastery walked by that pile of bodies, heard a baby crying, picked him up, took him to the monastery. They didn't know what to call him, so they gave him a name in Latin, Cherub, little angel. He stayed in that monastery for the next 5 years. In 1949, both Hannah and her husband survived the Holocaust and 2 of the 7 children. And Hannah told her husband, please go back to Buchenwald. Go back to the villages, the towns, the monasteries. Maybe our son survived. And he goes from place to place. Finally, in one monastery, the priest tells him, we have 3 children here. 2 came with documentation. We know they're Jewish. 1 we found is a small baby. We have nothing. But he came with a piece of cloth with a number on it. He would just say, can I see the number? That was his wife's number. He found his son, Cherub, collected his son, reunited his wife in Switzerland. They went back to Germany. And when he was 18 years old in 1962, they sent him to Israel, that he should come here, meet a Jewish woman, and have a Jewish family. He lives today in Givatayim. His name is Yoshua. He has children. He has grandchildren. And that's one happy story from a very sad and tragic event.
Thank you for spending the last half hour with us. Our hope is that we've been able to provide you with some fresh information about how the past events of the Holocaust are still affecting people around the world today.
Here at Focal Point, we're constantly striving to find new ways to keep you better informed about issues concerning Israel. We feel it's important for the church to be educated about the past, which will give us a solid foundation for today and better prepare for the future.
We'd like to continue to encourage you to email us with your thoughts and ideas for future shows at info@FocalPointTV.com.
Remember when you write to let us know where you're currently viewing Focal Point and if there are other Christian networks in your area you'd like to see us on.
You can always leave us a message by calling the number on your screen.
Stacy, 30 minutes sure is a short amount of time to be able to share such important subjects such as the Holocaust.
You're right, but God willing, we'll all be back here again on Focal Point. And until then, we would ask that you please pray for the ministry projects of CFI and the situations affecting Israel today.
And share with your family and friends some of the things you've seen today on this program.
We look forward to being with you again as we turn our point of focus on Israel and the Middle East.
Right here on Focal Point.
Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Focal Point is brought to you by Christian Friends of Israel, Jerusalem. For more information about any of today's guests, email us at info@FocalPointTV.com. To partner with the Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel through prayer, volunteering, or financial gifts, please visit cfijerusalem.org. Focal Point is a production of Level E Media Incorporated.